My dad despises spending money on me. My parents split when I was 9 years old. They were teenagers when they had me, and I remember their relationship was terrible when they were together. When they split, I stayed with my mother in the house they had bought together, whilst my dad moved away to live with a friend of his, Mike. That was a lie. Mike was actually Emma, his girl best friend, whom he'd been seeing whilst he was still with my mum. Dad eventually married Emma, but then they divorced a few years later. He's now with another woman, Jane. After my parents split, my dad didn't bother to see me for months, and paid nothing towards my mum to help take care of me. He later tried to have us kicked from the house so he could redecorate it and sell it, despite me and mum having nowhere to stay. Eventually, mum found us a rented place nearby to live in. We lived there for nearly 10 years, during which time my dad finally started to visit me and also paid child support, though very reluctantly. He was unwilling to help my mum in other ways. Once, my school shoes were ruined when the weather had been consistently bad for weeks and my mum couldn't afford a new pair, so my dad gave her the money, then skimmed it off the next child support payment. I should note here that my dad is an engineer and has always earned way more than my mum. Even though he earned more, my dad begrudged having to pay for me. Whilst he was with his ex-wife, I was rarely invited to any outings. When I was 13, he stopped putting my name on Christmas and birthday presents to family members and insisted I now had to get my own. Since I obviously didn't have a job or an allowance, this usually fell on my mum or other family members to pay for. For my 18th, he promised to take me to Glasgow for a Comic Con there, but he no-showed at the airport. I never got a present from him for my 18th. A similar thing happened for my 21st. He booked to take me to the Warner Brothers studio tour in London, but then convinced me to cancel a couple of weeks before we were due to go due to the bad weather for driving down, but the weather turned out to be fine in the end. Once again, I got nothing for my birthday from him. He has also recently stopped paying for me if we go for something to eat. I wasn't too bothered by this until recently, when I realized he had only stopped paying for me once I decided to attend uni. I only started attending when I was 21. I get a small student grant to help me out financially. My dad thinks I am rich due to this and asked me to pay for him occasionally. A few times he has convinced me to pay for him and his girlfriend too. Recently, I have been very short on money. I have started my master's degree and the grant is a lot less, not to mention I work in a pub that's rather quiet, so I only have 1 or 2 shifts a week, and that money typically pays for my commute or my lunches that week. When he asked if I wanted to go for something to eat one weekend last month, I knew I wouldn't be able to afford it, so I turned it down, and he didn't offer in any way to spot me one time. Where we were going, it would have cost around $15 max to help me out one time, and I would have offered to pay him back once I had the money. The boiling point this year was last week, when his girlfriend admitted to me that they hadn't bought me anything I had asked for Christmas. This wouldn't bother me, except I had asked for 3 books that I desperately want to read. Her excuse was that they were budgeting, so they had to buy presents early on, but I sent them my list in October, and one of the books was $7. If he had gotten me that and only that, I would have been happy. It's especially frustrating this year as I have gone out of my way to pay extra for postage to get their Christmas presents on time, and I got them things that they asked for, yet they can't even return the favor for me. My dad has a brand new car, a made-to-order BMW, that he got just a couple of months back, and a 4-bedroom house. At my undergrad graduation, he was bragging about all this to my mum, the same woman he couldn't be bothered to help to raise me for years. I can't even bring this up to my dad if I wanted to. He always turns things around on me as if it's my fault. When I was 16, I was upset that every time I saw him, we would just go into town and wander around bored for ages, whilst he ignored a lot of what I was saying. When I told him about this, he said it was my fault because I never gave any ideas for alternative plans. Another time, he berated me until I was crying when I had mentioned we rarely talked because it was my responsibility to get in touch with him, ignoring how he rarely got in touch with me. It's just incredibly frustrating, especially as he plays the doting father of the year in front of others.